This is the Harry Loomis Show.
Welcome back here to the Harry Loomis Show. Today is August 20th, and it is a great day for fans of the St. Louis Blues. Last week, the Blues announced that they were sending offer sheets to Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway from the Edmonton Oilers, and the Oilers had up until 8:30 Central Time today to announce if they were going to match the contracts or not, and they have decided that they will not. So Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, two very young players, Broberg from the 2019 draft, Holloway from the 2020 draft, are now members of the St. Louis Blues. All it cost them was a second-round pick for Broberg and a third-round pick for Dylan Holloway. This, like I said, is a great day for the St. Louis Blues. Just look at it this way. Don't worry about the contracts. If Doug Armstrong offered a second and third round pick straight up for Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, there is no chance that the Oilers would take that under normal circumstances in a regular trade. So the fact that the Blues are getting both of these players in this deal, in these offer sheets, is fantastic work. So this pretty much solidifies the Blues lineup as of right now. They have just under $1 million in cap space. Actually, just under $500,000 according to Puckpedia. It's $467,792. That does not take into account the potential $6.5 million that will open up if Torrey Krug has to miss the entire season with his ankle issue. And now you might be wondering why the Oilers didn't do this. It's simple. They're in a cap crunch as well. They currently have just under $1 million, $945,000, and that is after trading a guy like Cody Ceci to the San Jose Sharks the other day, and they got a decent player back in that deal. They picked up Ty Emberson. They also picked up Vasily Podkolzin from the Vancouver Canucks, who, when that was announced, kind of seemed like, okay, this is going to be the Holloway consolation prize. They're going to get Podkolzin to replace Holloway in the lineup, but once they traded Ceci for Emberton, it kind of seemed like, okay, maybe they're going to match Broberg, but they're not going to match Holloway, which is kind of the opposite of what we expected coming in, because up until about Friday, it seemed like everything is pretty quiet on Edmonton's end. It seemed like the Blues were going to get both of them, but then once these trades both happened, I think they both broke on Sunday. That's when you kind of started to pump the brakes. You're like, okay, maybe they're going to match one, maybe they're going to match the other. Broberg was always going to be a tough ask at over $4 million, but the Oilers have decided not to not to match either of those two players. So they are now members of the Blues, and the reason why they didn't do that, it's pretty obvious. The Oilers are a cup contending team, and they need all the cap they can get. That's why they moved Cody Ceci, even though they didn't replace him. He has a pretty big contract, so freeing up that space, setting him to a team like San Jose, will help them later on in the season. Like I said, they have $945,000 in cap space, and they might also have a player going on LTIR. There's a chance that Evander Kane will need hip surgery, so that opens up another $5.125 million. And now you have an extra second and third round pick, also another third round pick, because the Blues made a separate deal with the Oilers, sending a 2023 fifth round draft pick by the name of Paul Fisher and a third round pick over to the Oilers for future considerations. Nothing else, kind of a consolation prize for Edmonton there. So now the Oilers have a 2025 second, a 2025 third, and a 2028 third to work with at the deadline if they want to add another piece, assuming that they make a cup run, which by all intents and purposes, the Oilers are still a cup contender. Make no mistake about it. Holloway and Broberg are very good young players, but at the end of the day, the Oilers did get objectively better this offseason after taking the Panthers to 7 games just this past season. So I don't see any reason why they're still not going to be very good come playoff time when you have a team with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Evan Bouchard, and you add guys like Jeff Skinner, Matt Savoy, Victor Arvidsson. This team is going to score the lights out. They're going to be just fine. But this does raise questions now about what the Blues are going to do with the opening day lineup. I think the first line is still probably pretty solidified. I think it's going to be Jake Neighbors, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou. Thomas and Cairo, it's pretty obvious why they're up there. They're arguably the two best forwards on the team. Jake Neighbors really solidified himself, scoring around 30 goals last year. I think he stays at the first line center spot. So now the question becomes what happens with Dylan Holloway in this offense. I think right now I have the second line as Bolduc, Buchnevich, Saad. I could see Holloway going up into this second line, replacing Brandon Saad. I think I like Saad a lot. Don't get me wrong. Saad had a good year last year. But if you can get him out of your top six, that's even better because he's still a guy that can get you 20, 25 goals. If he could spread that out to probably a third line, now we're talking. And I think that's probably where he ends up, as I'm probably going to move Kasperi Kapanen out of my lineup. Matthew Joseph was on my third line, and I think he probably gets bumped down to the fourth for Brandon Saad. So now the question becomes, what does the fourth line look like right now? Nikita Alexandrov is still an RFA. As we all know, there are questions about whether Dalibor Dvorsky is going to be in the lineup. That throws a whole wrench into the system as well if he makes it. That'd be a great problem to have for the Blues, but who knows what's going to happen there. Right now, I think the bottom six looks something along the lines of third line, maybe Texier, Shen, Saad, fourth line, Torpchenko, Radek Faksa, and Matthew Joseph, which leaves guys like Alexandrov, Sundqvist, who might be on IR to start the year, Zach Dean, Nathan Walker, and some other guys, Kasperi Kapanen as well, out of the lineup to start the season. And the defense also looks pretty interesting now. It definitely got better with Broberg being added. I think that was a huge get for the top four, and I'm gonna pencil him in right away with Justin Falk. I would put him with Parayko, but Parayko actually had a really good year last year with Nick Leddy. So I think at the start of the year, at least, they're probably going to keep that as is, but it definitely wouldn't surprise me at some point if we see Broberg playing on the top pair with Colton Parayko. But I think either one of them, Parayko or Falk, would be a really good veteran type of player for Broberg to learn off of. This whole top four, this whole defensive unit as a whole, especially adding Ryan Suter, it's really just some great guys for Broberg to learn under and just kind of learn to be a pro with. Nick Leddy's a veteran guy. Colton Parayko's been around a while. Justin Falk, same thing. Ryan Suter. Even P.O. Joseph has been around for a few years. I am really liking the idea of just him meshing with all of those guys. I think that's about the best place that he could be right now. Jeremy Rutherford put out a really good tweet just talking about the future of the Blues. We talked about it, and it seemed like the future was kind of bleak for a while, but today really shows just how much that might be turning around. With Broberg and Holloway, the Blues will have 12 players in their organization who are first-round picks and are 25 years old or younger. This is how I build custom teams on NHL 24. I just try to get as many first-round picks as I can, and Armstrong is doing it in real life. Look at this. Robert Thomas, 2017. P.O. Joseph, who I forget is that young, also went 2017. 3 picks after Robert Thomas. Philip Broberg went 8th in 2019. Holloway, 14th in 2020. Neighbors, 26th in 2020. Zach Bolduc, 17th in 21. Zach Dean, 30th in 2021. Jimmy Snuggerud, 23 in 22. And then Dalibor Dvorsky, Theo Linstein, Otto Stenberg, and Adam Iracek the past 2 drafts. So, obviously, it's on the players to develop, and it's on the organization to give them the best tools they need to succeed and everything like that. But if these players hit, if most of them hit, Doug Armstrong and co have done a masterful job of building a team for the future. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team this year still. I think they're going to get better, but I think a lot of teams in the West also got better and might potentially leapfrog the Blues. So I don't have too high of hopes for this season still, but looking forward into the future, I think this team is just going to continue to build and build and build. Young players are just going to continue to get better, continue to get more confident, and this is really starting to become a core that you have a lot of faith in going into, the late 2020s, early 2030s. If you hold on to these guys, if you manage it correctly, this is potentially a really exciting future all of a sudden for the St. Louis Blues. So that's the news today. Right now, my lineup would be Neighbors, Thomas, Kyrou, the first line, Zach Bolduc, Buchnevich, Holloway, the second, Texier, Shen, Saad, third, Toropchenko, Foxa, Joseph, the fourth. And then defensive pairs would be Letty, Pareko, Broberg, Falk, Suter, and Kessel with Joseph and Perunovic on the outside looking in right now. Goaltenders obviously are Binnington and Hofer. That's a pretty solid team right now. And like I said, there's a bunch of young guys there. It's only going to get better. I think this is a really great day for the Blues. I think Doug Armstrong and Alex Steen, we know how Alex Steen likes the Swedes, like Philip Broberg. They did a fantastic job handling this. Like I said, you would not accept a second and third for Holloway and Broberg in a normal trade. The fact that the Blues are getting both of these players for that price is outstanding work by Army and Steiner. And that's why I never lost faith in Armstrong. He's had some bad moves over the years, but his good moves are so good. And you see them right away. The Pavel Buchnevich trade, the Braden Shen trade, the Ryan O'Reilly trade. When he hits, you know it, and it produces almost immediately. So I really have a lot of. I'm really excited to see how Holloway and Broberg fit into the Blues lineup this year, starting in Game 1, I think, against Seattle. So those are my thoughts on the news today. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back with a NASCAR recap later on today on the Harry Loomis Show.
This is the Harry Loomis Show.